You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down.
Look at the stars. The great kings of the past look down on us from those stars. So whenever you feel alone, just remember that those kings will always be there to guide you.
I don't think it is very useful to speculate on what God might or might not be able to do. Rather, we should examine what he actually does with the universe we live in.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon. The most profound discoveries are not necessarily beyond that next star. They're within us, woven into the threads that bind us.
Hello, beautiful people. Happy Wednesday, happy Mercury Day, and happy birthday to today's notable Libras, including Jon Favreau, John Lithgow, Jillian Jacobs, who else? Evander Holyfield is a Libra. Interesting. Not quite as many as in days previous, but if you are a Libra, if you know someone celebrating their birthday today, shout them out in the comments so we can celebrate them too. Corby is here. Happy Wednesday. Hi, Rose. Hello, Nick. Happy to see you all here. And I would love to just take the temperature of the room. How is everyone feeling today? We've got a lot of intense transits to talk about today. And intensity isn't always a bad thing, right? I've noticed since starting the stream, when we talk about tension, when we talk about sensitivity, there is this connotation associated with those words that these things are bad. But of course, we know we're here to experience the full spectrum, the full range of emotions. And the tension we're feeling today marks a turning point in our transformation. So that's where we're starting. Nick says he's feeling okay. Rose says she's tired. Baby woke up at 1 a.m. and didn't go down until 4 a.m. Oof, feeling for you, Rose. Well, let's get into our main transits of the day. Without further ado, a check on the energy. The sun is in Libra. The moon is in Leo. So we have a lot of fire and air energy. These two elements work well together, and it's bringing an element of action or movement into the forecast. So what actions are we talking about? What movement are we talking about? Oh, happy 14th birthday to Maribel's daughter. I am so happy that I caught that before we got into the forecast. Celebrating her today and celebrating you because, of course, it's your birthday too if you brought that beautiful soul into the world. Corby says she's feeling the intensity, the sensitivity, have just been deciding to embrace it even when it feels uncomfortable. It's for my own growth and good. Yes, absolutely. And that is the vibe of the day. I'm so glad you said that before we got into things. Definitely feeling that discomfort. That's a really great word. Hi, Nikki. I see the astrology forecast just to see me. Oh, well, I don't know if you're here for the right reasons, but we're happy you're here. Chilling out, relaxing today. Did a big cleanup in my kitchen. It was messy. Really love fixing my house. I love that. Finding control in our surroundings. That could be useful today. In this phase of surrender, of letting go, sometimes it's nice to find things we can control, at least those of us who are a little bit of control freaks like myself. So, okay, now let's get into our major transits of the day. So today is the first day that the Sun and Venus are within a degree of each other. So take a look at the current chart, and we got to fast forward here so we can really see what it looks like. Okay, here's where we're at. The Sun and Venus are now in this tighter conjunction, and the Sun and Venus will be together for several weeks, as we've been talking about, becoming exactly conjunct on Saturday and then moving into Scorpio together on Sunday. But we're really feeling Venus's energy infused into our awareness. And that means that relationships are kind of the cornerstone of our experience over the next couple weeks, not just because it's Libra season, but because Venus, the planet of relationships, is conjunct the sun, and the sun represents our awareness, our experience, right? But both of these planets are squaring Pluto today, and you're seeing a lot of red lines on the chart. That's a big indicator that we're experiencing some discomfort, some tension, right? In this software on astroseek.com, the red tends to represent tension or discomfort, whereas the blue is more ease and support. So lots of red on the chart today. The sun and Venus squaring Pluto. Anytime we have a square to Pluto, remember Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth. And Pluto to me represents our shadows. It represents what's underneath our conscious awareness, what's in the subconscious, what lies beneath. And when we go down there, when we go to the edge of the shadows, what do we find? Usually it's something that we need to release or transform. And so that's why Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth, the planet of transformation, because it's all about bringing the shadows into the light. And I think of this when I think of like Pluto, the actual planet. It's on the edge of the solar system. It's dark, it's shadowy. There's not much light out there from our sun. But what lies beyond Pluto is sort of a mystery. There's more light, there's more adventure. The unknown lies beyond Pluto. And that can be scary. A lot of fears can come up when we're talking about Pluto. Oh, thank you, Rose. You're so sweet. Thanks so much. Taking your daughter shopping. How fun. What a fun way to celebrate a birthday. So how is this showing up in our lives? The sun and Venus squaring Pluto. Well, our relationships are definitely going to be the focus of this, but also our sense of self, with the sun representing us, our experience, right? These elements of us are tested today as the sun and Venus square Pluto. It could mark a change or a turning point even in our partnerships or in our purpose, what we're bringing to the table, how we are aware in our relational dynamics. The best way to work with this energy is to try to release control, especially when it comes to our partnerships, or maybe you've been feeling a lot of fears coming up around your awareness, around your purpose, around your sense of self. We're under the waning crescent moon. It's a time of surrender. And really the key here is just to kind of let Pluto do the work for you. Shadows could come to the surface. That means intense emotions could come up in almost a forcible manner with this square to Pluto. A square brings abrupt energy, and Pluto is the planet of transformation, of course, so there could be abrupt changes. Yeah, Corby says the fears, lots of fear probably coming up, maybe fear about your relationships. Is this really the person I'm supposed to be with? Is this friendship really serving me? Is my child going to be okay? Those are reflections of ourself, truly, because remember, relationships are our biggest mirrors, and the fear doesn't live in the relationship. The fear lives within us. So this square between the sun, Venus, and Pluto is forcing us to see things we can no longer ignore, forcing us to face our shadows. And we could even be blindsided by emotions, intense emotions that surface today. That's where the transformational work lies, right? How are we responding when intensity arises, whether in relational dynamics or just in our own bodies? So as we are in this state of surrender, we can just observe these intense emotions coming up and observe what's not working so it can be released and alchemized. With Pluto being that planet of death and rebirth, there's an element of alchemy here, but we can only transform things, we can only alchemize things when we are aware of them. And this transit today brings that awareness. Powerful experiences are possible in relationships, and just in general, transformation isn't easy though, remember, and that's where these powerful experiences can come up. And I really feel like this transit, now that the Sun and Venus are within a degree of each other, this is really kicking off the energy we're going to feel over the next week leading up to the solar eclipse in Scorpio. Even the the Sun and Venus are telling right now, together, moving through the end of Libra and then descending into Scorpio together. It's like we're taking the current experience in our relationships and bringing things to a deeper level, to a more real level, to a more authentic level. But in order to get there, we've got to cut through a lot of the bullshit. We've got to cut through a lot of the fears. We've got to cut through a lot of the ways that we are kind of hiding from ourselves. So that's not an easy process. You know, it's easier said than done too. So if you're feeling fears, if you're feeling doubts, if you're feeling like you're falling into past patterns, remember this solar eclipse is conjunct the South Node. So as we make our way towards it, we could notice ourselves falling back into past patterning or cycles that aren't serving us, habits that aren't serving us. And those can be our shadows, right? Some of the shadow work that you hear about all the time involves looking at subconsciously what we're doing, what we're believing, what feels like it's just naturally happening sometimes is where the transformational work lies. Not all friendships have to serve someone. That's an interesting take. I like that, Nick. Not all friendships have to serve someone. Yes, in order to ascend, descend, go to the depths. The old and unnecessary must fall away. And that's Pluto in a nutshell, right? It's the death, it's letting things go. And with this square to Pluto, it really feels like the death component coming into play as we lead up to this Scorpio solar eclipse being sort of this rebirth, because remember, Pluto rules Scorpio. So we're really playing into this Plutonian energy over the next week. And whatever's coming up today, even if it's surprising, if it's intense, it's likely showing us what's dying right now in order for us to be reborn under the eclipse, in order for us to be prepared for the unexpected shifts and changes and opportunities that could come up with the eclipse. Right now, we're in the eclipse season. It's just kind of take your hands off the wheel mode. And that can be scary for those of us who like control. And there is a tendency with a square to Pluto to try to control, to try to manipulate because we feel out of control. So pay attention to that too. That could be some of that shadow work that's calling you. Like, what are you trying to control? What are you trying to manipulate? Where are you feeling out of control? And kind of assessing where there is work to be done there. What are you trying to control that's maybe out of your control? And what are you ignoring that's actually in your control? So we're playing a lot with the subconscious. We're playing a lot with transformation and certainly playing into this death and rebirth cycle that we're like descending down into the pits in order to be prepared to rise again after the Scorpio solar eclipse. That's a mouthful. Scorpio solar eclipse. You're going to have to get used to hearing that because we're going to be talking about it quite a bit over the next week. And this isn't the only transit that we're feeling today. By the way, though, the Sun squared Pluto this morning, Venus squares Pluto tonight. So we're really feeling this energy all day, and it's more of an extended transit. So it'll bleed into the days following, certainly. It just feels like this is like bang, kicking off the solar eclipse. But also happening today, yes, the phoenix from the ashes. That's the exact image to hold on to, or that's what helps me when I think of Pluto, when I think of Scorpio energy, that death and rebirth. We have to burn it away in order to rise from the ashes. And today's energy feels a little bit like sparking the flames to start the burning away of things that are no longer serving us. Now, also, I keep trying to get to this next transit, also happening today, Mercury is opposing Chiron. So that's that dark red line you see directly across the chart here. Mercury at 13 degrees in Libra, opposing Chiron at 13 degrees in Aries. And I just have to say, as an aside, I love doing this every day because I'm always like, oh, that's why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. Every time I look at the chart, I'm like, oh, okay, that's what's coming up right now. There's always something to be learned from each of the transits. And of course, the transits don't just last one day, but I think these daily check-ins of like, oh, this is the current energy and this is how it's affecting me can really help us find more ease in days like today where there is a lot of tension. Okay, so we have this other dark red line that we're talking about, right? And also the moon is opposing Saturn right now too. So there's that. We'll get to the moon in just a second, but lots of tension playing out. Okay, so Mercury opposing Chiron. What does that mean? Well, you all know I'm big on Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer, this icy outer body in our solar system that represents our deepest wounds and our ability to heal them, really our quest to heal them. And then once we figure out those healing modalities, our ability to share them with others. And as Mercury, remember, Mercury rules our mental state, our mind, our conscious understanding. As Mercury opposes Chiron, our wounds are becoming very clear. We're facing them directly, really playing into the transformation we've been talking about. So it's like our communication is facing off against our wounds. And you might find yourself being kind of hurtful with your words. That could be some of the catalyst, or other people even being hurtful with their words. Those could be kind of the catalysts for this transformational energy, these shadows that are coming up as the Sun and Venus square Pluto. It's really easy to be pulled into our past wounds, our past patterning, because Mercury is opposing Chiron, and especially not even actions that are hurtful or reflective of our wounds, but thoughts, words that are reflective of our hurt. And so watch your own dialogue in your mind today. Are you kind of hurting yourself with the words and thoughts that you're thinking and saying? By observing our tendencies today, by observing what we do, what we think when we are feeling insecure, when we are feeling out of control, when we are feeling wounded, we can begin to unlock what is asking to be healed, what is asking to be transformed. So Mercury opposing Chiron just adds another juicy layer to the tension, right? It's really forcing us to look straight in the eyes of our wounds and be like, okay, where is this need to control coming from? Where is this destructive patterning coming from? And it would be a powerful day to maybe journal on that, with Mercury being the planet that rules our thought process. Really write it out and kind of have that dialogue with yourself of what's coming up, what needs to be healed, what's being transformed within yourself, within your awareness, and within your relationships. Popping in between getting the kids, I've been feeling verbalizing my vulnerability. Beautiful. And that is a great way to use Mercury opposing Chiron. Yes, Katie's always on point. She always gets it. Mercury opposing Chiron, speaking out about what's hurting you, what feels vulnerable, where that wounding is coming from. Now, we want to be really intentional about that, because an opposition is like that make or break energy. So maybe you take the time to reflect on your own before having those conversations, or have a very clear intention going into conversations, because it would be very easy, I think, for things to take a controlling, manipulative, intense turn with the Sun and Venus squaring Pluto. Our relationships, there's intensity that's coming up, and power struggles are kind of possible with Pluto in the mix. Pluto is very much associated with control and power. So I think setting an intention before having those conversations could be helpful, but I'm always a proponent of being vulnerable, verbalizing things. As a verbal processor myself, I have to get things off my chest through my words. But if you're not ready to have conversations with other people, sometimes even writing down what you're feeling vulnerable about, that can be vulnerable in itself, right? Like, I can't believe I'm writing this down on paper right now, especially if you're not somebody who regularly journals. Today's a day I would invite you to meet that edge and push yourself to process mentally what deep emotions are coming up for you. Rose says, good to know about this transit so I can be more mindful of my words today. Yeah, especially if I'm just a tired mama. And yes, Just yes. Yes to that. And I think sometimes when we're tired is when it's easy to fall into those past patterns, right? Or kind of destructive, controlling tendencies. Because I think, honestly, as I'm just thinking about this off the top of my head, like when we're tired, we're more tapped into our subconscious, right? We're more just like kind of like zombie walking around. But I think sometimes that can be a gift in itself. I use the word gift lightly because being tired sucks and it's not fun. And sometimes we're not the best versions of ourselves when we're tired, but we're still a version of ourselves. We're still a version of ourselves, and there's still data that can be gathered by observing what we do when we're tired, when we're worn out, when we're just depleted, and that could be Mercury opposing Chiron. Like, being overly tired is almost like being wounded in a way. We're not at full strength, and that's when our wounds can come up. I'm happy I can use my tiredness as an excuse to enjoy a cup of coffee today. Absolutely. And Venus squaring Pluto too. I feel like anytime we talk about Venus aspects, Rose is always on point. She always is talking about like food or indulgences. And Venus squaring Pluto, we might be reaching for control through food, through pleasure, right? Venus squaring Pluto too, if we're having any sort of hostility, aggression coming up, I could see that being channeled into the bedroom as well, like as a release, letting things die, letting that release clear some energy can be really powerful. So, as always, I suggest setting an intention with anything you do. And if the intention is to release, to clear that tension, I think that can be really, really powerful. Okay, let's talk about what's going on with the moon. Still a waning crescent moon in Leo. And as we've been saying over the past couple of days, the waning crescent moon in Leo is just like, let your hair down, have a little fun. Although the transits aren't really fun today. But I think instead of focusing on fun, Leo very much is associated with that childlike, playful energy. So can you take a moment to take a break from an argument, to take a break from any fear, tension, exhaustion that you're feeling, and just take 5 minutes to do something fun, to release through fun, to be a little playful, to crack a little joke, to dance around, to be silly, to sing a little song, like that can be really, really helpful. I feel like when we talk about the major planetary transits, it's like, okay, this is the energy that we're experiencing most strongly. But when we look at the micro transits the moon is making, it's like, here are the answers in a lot of ways of how to process the emotions that come up because of the major planetary energy. Katie says, that's beautiful insight. I've been so tired and seeing lots of old patterns coming up with that. Absolutely. And it's all about the seasons, right? There's a reason that there's a reason for every season. So if you're finding yourself in a very tired season, that could be the wounding in itself. Like, why are you not giving yourself enough rest? Why are you not taking the time to give your body the nourishment it needs? Of course, I'm not a mom, so I can't fully understand what that would be like. And I have so much empathy for all the mamas out there. But, maybe it's your body saying, like, you just need to take a little more time for yourself, and that could be the wounding too. Why don't you feel like you're worthy enough of giving yourself rest, of taking time for yourself, of asking your partner, hey, can you take dinner tonight? Because I just need an hour to go be by myself. Can you watch the kids right now? So I was just talking with, a friend about this who's actually an Aries, and how she has 2 young children, and since they were born, she had to take time, even if it was just a couple minutes, to go sit in the living room by herself and not have anybody need her. And with Chiron and Aries, it could be bringing up wounding around, like, where are you not putting yourself first? You have to put yourself first in order to show up for your family. Venus rules my chart. What does this mean for me? Great question, Bree. Well, the Sun conjunct Venus, I feel like there's probably a lot coming up for you in the next week around this solar eclipse, because the solar eclipse will be conjunct Venus as well. And so really paying attention to where Venus is in your chart, I think is going to be helpful for you. But also with Venus squaring Pluto, with Venus conjunct this solar eclipse, I just see big transformation, big changes happening for you, especially, or anyone who is a Libra or Taurus rising. With Venus being your ruling planet, Venus is taking center stage during this eclipse season. And think about it. We have the solar eclipse conjunct Venus, and then we have a lunar eclipse 2 weeks later in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. So Venus wants us to pay attention to her right now. And so paying attention to where Venus is moving through your chart in Libra, then into Scorpio, what parts of your chart does that rule? And then really paying attention to how are you evolving? How are you transforming? What layers of yourself are you shedding? And I would say also just being open to those changes, open to the transformation, because as we say during eclipse season, anything can happen. So just being open to those opportunities, I think, can be really helpful. Let's talk about what's going on with the Leo moon today. Yes, find those moments of surrender, of joy, of play. That can be a really helpful way to lean into the release we've been talking so much about. Now, midnight Pacific time, so 3 a.m. Eastern time, the moon harmonized with Chiron. So we had a couple transits overnight that were kind of priming us for the energy we've been talking about today. The moon and Chiron harmonizing really brings this awareness to our inner child, to our wounding, but also this ease and healing, and reminding us all day today that having fun and playing with the moon in Leo can be a modality of healing. Like tapping into the needs of your inner child, the needs of your younger self can be where that transformation lies, where it's coming from. Healing can come naturally if we almost view ourselves as like, I would say almost viewing ourselves as a former version, or like how we would treat a former version, our inner child. That can be really naturally healing. And then at 2 a.m. Pacific time, so 5 a.m. Eastern time, and just before midnight, or maybe midnight for Rose, the moon squared the north and south node. And so this today in general, this Leo moon day really does feel like a turning point emotionally. If we backtracked here, you would see when the moon was at 14 degrees, it was forming a T-square to the north and south nodes. And this happens twice a month, but it usually, to me, feels like this turning point and this point of release heading into the Scorpio the Scorpio solar eclipse coming up next Tuesday. So it just, all the transits today really feel like they're like, okay, get ready for the solar eclipse, clear it out, release it, start the process of surrender to whatever intense emotions come up, surrender to whatever feelings come up, because the next week might bring up a lot of shadows or a lot of unconscious things you weren't aware were there. But that's when a lot of quick changes and opportunities can come up. I think the more tuned in we are to what we're releasing, what we're healing, what's coming up for us, the more open we are to opportunities that are aligned with our current energy. So, yes, the moon squaring the north and south node is like this emotional turning point between the past version of ourselves and the future version of ourselves. And this waning crescent moon is like surrender to the transformation, surrender to the process. Okay, then the moon squared Uranus at 8 a.m. So this is really the energy we woke up under, and at the same time, it was opposing Saturn. So you can see Uranus was in this T-square with the moon and Saturn, and we're still feeling this right now if you see the triangle on the chart here. When the moon opposes Saturn, we can just wake up and feel a little down, a little low, but the square to Uranus creates this energy of agitation, restlessness, disruption. And remember, Saturn and Uranus are still squaring each other through the beginning of Scorpio season. And that really marks this push-pull dynamic between the past and the future, between old versions of ourselves and tradition and new versions of ourselves and innovation. And it can bring up a lot of lessons that we learned over the past year and how we're evolving because of those lessons that we're learning. So evolution just feels like the key word today, transformation and evolution. But again, I'll say it again, these feelings aren't easy, when we feel like it really does feel like we're kind of suspended with all the transits today, all these squares and oppositions that we're talking about between a past version of ourselves and a future version of ourselves. And you might feel like you're just kind of stuck in the middle right now. And that's okay if that's where you're at. There is beauty to be found in the middle, in the pause, in the slowdown. So just observing the emotions you're feeling in this middle ground and trusting that the unfolding is happening. That I really feel like trusting in the eclipses, trusting that they're going to show the shadows, they're going to reveal what needs to change, and maybe even change things for you. Yeah, I am too, Katie. I'm actually excited for this eclipse and what will come after the shedding. Lots of Scorpio energy in our house. I'm getting really excited for the eclipse too. I just learned it's conjunct my moon as well. So I'm like, okay, what does that mean? What's coming for me? I'm not really sure, but we just got to stay open to it and surrender to it. And I've been feeling, as I've been talking so much with you all about so much release and shedding and kind of darkness coming up. We pulled the Dark Night of the Soul card last week. It's been a lot of falling into past patterning and observing, I don't want to be this way, but it's really easy to just keep doing what's easy. Right. And so I'm feeling like the solar eclipse, it's not a traditional new moon. I wouldn't set manifestations necessarily or intentions on the solar eclipse, but I feel like it is this rebirth energy, this new beginning energy. But the week leading up to it brings a lot of shedding, and it could bring fears, doubts, just like you all were saying. That's the energy we're feeling right now with the moon still opposing Saturn and squaring Uranus. We're craving disruption. We're craving excitement in a way, but we're also, as the moon opposes Saturn, just feeling like isolating and being like kind of on our own and these fears coming up. So it feels aligned with everything y'all are saying. Bree says, I'm an Aquarius with Saturn going direct in Aquarius soon. So much going on with the transits in my chart. Yay! I would love to do a reading with you. That would be so fun. Yes. There's a lot going on for a lot of people right now, but yeah, Saturn stations direct this weekend, I believe, right? Yes, on Saturday. Actually, Saturday is going to be a really powerful day. 10/22/22. That's not because anybody told me it's going to be a powerful day, but every time I feel into that day, I'm like, whoa, there's like so much going on, so much shifting, so much changing. The sun will be at the anaretic degree. Saturday is going to be a powerful day. And of course, we'll talk about that as the week goes on. Corby says, I'm bracing myself. Scorpio rising and Venus in Scorpio here. So yeah, you'll be having your Venus return in the next couple weeks. The sun will be moving into your first house. For you, Corby, it's going to be a big rebirth energy after this solar eclipse and during eclipse season in general. During Scorpio season, you probably feel really good at some point during Scorpio season as the sun moves from your 12th house to your first house. So count on the rebirth, even if it feels like you're in the middle of the death right now. If you're, the sun's in your 12th house, probably it's definitely death shedding energy for you, but the rebirth is coming. Yeah, I'm a little antsy about what's on the other side of it. Definitely uncomfortable. 12th house transits are the least comfortable, in my opinion. It's just like, okay, we just got to trust what's coming. Just surrender, and then surrender some more. Yeah, uncomfortable is the word of the day. But discomfort means growth. Yes. Bree gets it. Discomfort is part of the growing process. If we just stayed in our comfort zone all the time, we would never grow. I'm supposed to find out whether I'm expecting another baby this weekend. Sending so much positive energy to you, picturing another little soul entering your life and trusting that whatever is meant to happen will happen for you. But big rebirth energy is coming, and I am holding the highest vision for you, Rose. We're all sending you so much love. Go with the flow, all about the surrender. Yes. Okay, so we talked about the transit we experienced this morning. Only one more transit to talk about, and that's the moon forming a sextile to Mars at 10 p.m. tonight. So very late tonight. we've been having a lot of transits like this lately where it's like a burst of energy late at night. The moon forming a sextile to Mars, 10 p.m. You might get a little boost of motivation. But also, Mars is the planet of war, the planet of action. You might just be feeling like, okay, with the moon in Leo, like I need to take some action. Remember, this is a time of surrender. So surrender through movement. With the waning moon connecting with Mars, do a little dancing tonight, do a little late night yoga. If you're feeling any tension and you're trying to wind down, lean into movement, lean into action in a way that feels like physical action, not like doing more with work or doing more around the house, but literally just moving your body and clearing any excess energy that has come up can be really helpful. So that's the last transit we're feeling tonight. We are in a little bit of a lull right now, but still definitely feeling that opposition to Saturn and just the discomfort. Discomfort is par for the course today for sure. And that comes us back. I'm having my Mercury return. You think that my words would be more clear, but we're rolling with it. We're surrendering. The moon's in my 12th house. It's a surrender, right? I'm here to alchemize. And the discomfort that we're feeling, the tension that we're feeling is all part of the alchemization. Is that a word? The process of death and rebirth. We're here to evolve ourselves. Like literally every 7 years, we are a completely different person of ourselves than we were 7 years before. Who you were 7 years ago, there wasn't a single cell in your body other than women who have eggs in their ovaries, but that's a whole other can of worms. There wasn't a single cell in your body that was the same as it is now. Like we are here as humans to grow and alchemize and constantly evolve our mind, our body, and our spirit. So whatever tension, whatever discomfort is coming up is showing you what needs to be released. Simply put, it's a new word today. We're here for it. We're here for these new words. All right, moving on to our tarot pull, seeing if the universe has any messages for us on this uncomfortable day. We'll find out. I'm going to pull from the Light Seers Tarot. It just felt like we needed a little bit of light. And I'm reminded now that on the top of the box it says, and into the gray we follow like 1,000 flickering stars, and there in the sunlit hollow we lose and find what is ours. We lose and find what is ours. Sometimes we have to get lost to be found again. That's a big theme that's been coming up for me lately too. So if you're feeling that discomfort, if you're feeling a little lost, it's all part of finding yourself again. I like to say, if you're not growing, then what the fuck are you doing? Yeah, exactly. Like, why are you here? Why are you here? And I love that we started the week with the Sun and Mars harmonizing, really tapping us into our purpose. Like, why am I here? What do I want? What do I desire? Because that's kind of the basis of this transformational process that eclipse season is bringing us, like getting down to the root of like, why am I here? What do I want to do? And then observing, okay, what are these fears and doubts about? Why are they like, how are they holding me back from what I really want to do? Because if you don't know where you're going or what you actually want, sometimes it's easy to just get lost in fear or like, what am I doing? So that's something nice to come back to as well. It can be comforting to just in this discomfort to be like, what do I want? And even if it's unclear, Mars is still squaring Neptune loosely. Even if it's unclear, it can just be, what do I want? Okay, I want to feel happy. Maybe that's your desire, just to live a happy life. And then ask, a follow-up question. What would make me happy right now in this moment? Especially in a Leo moon. Like, what would make you happy? Or if your desire is to, create your own family or break generational patterns. Okay, so what fears and doubts are coming up around that with the Sun and Venus squaring Pluto? And what are those showing you about what is truly important to you? I'm not a fan of discomfort, but it's time to go to the next level. Absolutely. I've been putting in the work, not going to stop now just because of how I'm feeling in the process. That resonates so deeply with me right now. I'm definitely in an uncomfortable phase in my life, but I'm not going to stop now just because of how I'm feeling in the process. Thank you for that reminder. That's gold. Yeah. If you're not growing, then what the fuck are you doing? No matter where you go, there you are. Yeah. Yeah. And you are with yourself every step of the way. So knowing what you want, knowing why you're here can be your North Star, your guiding compass in these moments of tension and discomfort. Ooh, another nugget from Rose. Gotta challenge it to change it. Yes. This is the energy of the day. Absolutely. Absolutely. Air hugs to Corby. Love it. Okay, let's go ahead. Whether you're finding this video live or joining me later, just wherever you are, let's take a deep breath together. And in this deep breath, we can just find a little bit of the release that we've been talking about. So here we go, nice and deep. Breathe in all the way from your root to your crown. Hold it and let it go with an audible sigh. Just let it release. If you need to do that a couple more times, you can do it again, breathing in. What do we need to know? The Seven of Cups came up. And it's interesting already. It looks like somebody who's a little bit uncomfortable or indecisive, kind of trying to decide which cup to choose, and there's a snake slithering through the cups. So let's find out what it means for us. Seven of Cups. Fantasies, choices, wishful thinking, the allure of temptation on the path, needing to move forward without knowing the full picture. Options. When you daydream your way into the future, the options that you have in front of you can feel both under and overwhelming. The path from A to Z is often nebulous, and life can present itself like a game of chutes and ladders that brings you down only to lift you up. Your desire to choose the one correct and perfect path can further complicate and muddle your decision because there is no way to know everything that will spill forth from the cup you choose. Oof. Use your intuition to decide, remembering that the temptation of shiny things can be illusory, while challenging paths will often hold unexpected opportunity. Challenging paths will often hold unexpected opportunity. Ask your discerning heart what options honestly stand in front of you today. And even if things are not exactly as they seem, choosing that which you truly desire will offer the most useful stepping stone right now. My wildest imagination is a tool that I can use to inform my future in a down-to-earth way. I love this. I love how it talks about coming back to what you truly desire and the fact that, yeah, the path of least resistance seems shiny and pretty and easy, and maybe it even seems like on social media, the world that we live in, that things are just coming to other people so easily. There's no resistance. But when we're walking the path, often it feels challenging, and that's when the most unexpected opportunities can come up. And unexpected opportunities are definitely to be expected during eclipse season. Now, while I was pulling that card, another card just slid off the top of the deck by itself. The Queen of Swords. So I feel like the universe wants us to read this one too. Queen of Swords. Let's find out what message she has for us. Here she is. Queen of Swords, a thought leader, unbiased decision-making, an excellent communicator, wise and logical counsel, integrity and honesty, being perceptive, intelligence, being direct, seeking truth. Highly astute, intellectual, and honest, she watches calmly over her kingdom. Graceful and logical, her wisdom is framed in truth and proof, and she avoids the gossip or fluff that others may want to hear. She asks you to be honest in your relationships, direct in your speech, and witty if you want to be, but above all, to bring your clear-headed, unbiased reasoning to the table. Sometimes this communication style can come across as cold or cutting. So if you're having trouble communicating something that is difficult for another person to hear, know that you can always dip your toe into the cup of empathy and compassion to help with your delivery. Sharp analysis and careful consideration are always intelligent moves, as is being able to clearly connect with others in a way that is easily accepted and understood. A clear heart and a clear mind will allow you to speak your truth always. I speak with wisdom and clarity. I love that both of these cards came up, that this card really wanted to be read today, because Venus and the Sun squaring Pluto and all of this Venus activation we've been talking about can bring up difficult conversations. It can bring up harsh truths in our relationships. And of course, our relationships are our mirrors. So if you find yourself needing to communicate a truth or a realization in your relationship, this card is really reminding us, like, dip your toe into the cup of compassion and empathy. Is the way that you're expressing your truth going to be received? Because if it's not going to be received well, then what's the point anyway? What's the point of expressing it in the first place? So I feel like this is definitely some queen wisdom energy that the cards are bringing us, especially in the midst of this, Seven of Cups. Like, where are we going? What path to choose? Regardless of the path, if it feels like a challenging path, we can show up with wisdom and clarity of what we desire and what we want, and express our truth in a way that's easy for others to understand. This card is a real life picture of me figuring out what to eat for my next meal. You and me both, Rose. I'm like, what do I want? And honestly, it totally relates. Like, the path of least resistance would just be like door dashing something not good for me, some burritos probably. But the more challenging path is probably where more opportunities are going to unfold, like me actually cooking a healthy meal for myself and taking a little more time and energy. I'm probably going to feel better about myself, and I'm going to learn something new in the process, most likely, because cooking is a learning process, at least for me still. It was like he was playing the devil's shell game with the snake as the devil. I've never heard of the devil's shell game. Is that the one where it's like something under the bowls and you move them around? Maybe that's what we're talking about. Totally saw that card today. Wow. The Queen of Wands illustration looks like a boss bitch vibes. Yes, it does. She's like calm, cool, and collected. She knows what she wants. She looks ahead, and you can tell she's like, I'm going to take my time before I respond to things. It's interesting too, because they say, I'm not a tarot reader, but when you're interpreting tarot cards, to really pay attention to all of the little symbolism in the card. And there's a little cup down here full of water, and it's like guarded, like almost her emotions are guarded. Like she's dipping into them when she needs to, but she's not letting them all spill out. Yes, swords. I knew what you were saying. Needed this second card. I had a feeling the deck was just sitting by itself, and halfway through reading it just slid right off. I'm like, okay, someone needs to hear this. Needed both, but the first is coming for me. Yep, we needed to hear both of them today. All right, everybody, that is going to do it for this episode of Transits today. I wish you ease and clarity as you navigate any discomfort, any tension that comes up today and bubbles up through eclipse season. Remember that we're all here for each other. This is a community where you can be vulnerable, where you can show up, receive guidance, and share any insights that are coming up for you, because we're all part of the same collective consciousness, and even the few of us who are here together every day, when we work together, when we show up for each other, we are making a difference, because our light sprinkles light across the world. Honestly, you showing up for yourself today makes it easier, I hope, for you to show up for your family and have more of a clear head or a deeper understanding of yourself. And then your children, your partners go out into the world and they hopefully benefit from the good energy and sprinkle that too. So I am just grateful every day, but today especially, for each and every one of you showing up here and being part of this community. I hope you have an amazing day. We are in this together, Katie. And with clear-headedness, making clear decisions, and knowing if there's confusion right now, the time is a time of surrender. Just let the universe show you what to do. So with that, I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your Wednesday. I will see you all right back here tomorrow, but until I see you next, stay curious. Thank you so much for joining us and aligning with the energy of the universe today. If you enjoyed this morning's episode of Transits Today, you can join our live astrology discussion every weekday morning right here wherever you're watching. And head to thespiritualjournalist.com to read your daily astrology forecast and browse the Spiritual Shop. The most fun way to help keep these forecasts free and support more content like this is to buy yourself a little something on our website. But if you're feeling extra generous, you can also buy me a coffee to fuel future live streams. Just tap the link in the description or head to buymeacoffee.com and search The Spiritual Journalist. And speaking of, you can also tune in to The Spiritual Journalist, our weekly live interview where we ask our guests questions about everything from crystals and manifestation to mental health and the environment. Those conversations stream live right here wherever you're watching now every Tuesday. I'm so grateful you found us here, and I can't wait for our next conversation.